Hi, it's Tasha with A Purposeful You. Today we're going to talk about thinning your fall seedlings. Now, we planted our fall garden about a month ago. However, the birds ate half of our seedlings, so we had to replant about 2 weeks ago. We had to replant the radishes and the spinach. So I'm going to show you how to thin your seedlings to make sure that you can have a successful fall crop, as this is one of the biggest mistakes beginner gardeners make. In this video, I'm going to show you why you should thin your seedlings, how you thin your seedlings, when should you do it, and also what to do with your seedlings after. Like, what do you do with little radish tops? Well, I will show you, so stick around to the end. Now, I love sharing backyard garden tips. We have a big garden, however, you can start with an 8x4 box this year or next year, and you can have plenty of food for your family. I hope I can inspire you to start growing your own food, and it doesn't have to be that difficult. So just know you don't always have to start by seed. But today I'm going to show you how to thin your seedlings if you started a whole bunch of vegetables from seed to make sure that you can have a successful fall crop. So let's get into it. I also have a great tip on what to do with your carrots. I actually thin carrots 2 or 3 times, so I'm going to show you what that's all about and how I harvest carrots to ensure that the other ones will grow to their full potential. So you'll see here, this is the bed full of radishes. Now, we did plant 2 other rows, but the birds got them. So I ended up planting just another 4 rows over there to ensure that we would have a successful crop. Now you can see here that these are very close together. So I'm going to show you what thinning is all about. First up, let's talk about why you should thin seedlings. If you don't thin seedlings, then the plants are going to fight for nutrients and they're not going to grow as big as they should. Most of these radishes are really close together, so they have no room for the actual radish to grow. You want to thin them to make sure that you can have the space for the vegetables to grow to their full potential. Now, the next biggest question is, when should you thin your seedlings? You should thin your seedlings when there's about 2 or 3 true leaves, depending on the vegetable. Something like radishes, I'll wait till there's only 2 leaves, or they're 1.5 inches to 2 inches off the ground, to make sure that they have established enough so that when I pull them out, that they won't disturb each other. Other vegetables like spinach or carrots, they may have 3 true leaves before you thin them. A rule of thumb is make sure they're 1 inch to 1.5 inches tall before you thin them. If you thin them when they're too young, then the root systems will get interrupted and they'll all die. So you do want to make sure the root systems are strong enough for you to thin. Now, some people will actually cut the seedlings, or some people will pull them out. So it depends what you're comfortable with and how close your seedlings are. You can see here that these radishes are very close together. So here's how we're going to thin them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 in this one area, and I actually only want 2. So I'm going to pull these ones out ever so gently, and then I'm left with 2 here that will be able to grow to their full potential here underneath. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to thin all these radishes, and I'm going to keep the seedlings and show you what to do with them. Here's what they look like close up. I keep them all as I like to make a pesto, or I like to use them as microgreens, or you can just eat them on the go. Now, when you do this, you want to make sure that you do not disturb the root system of the radishes that are going to be staying in. So you do want to do it as lightly and gently as possible. So now I've done this whole bed, and you can see here that there is a really good gap in between all the seedlings to ensure that they will grow to as big as they need to grow. Okay, now that the radish bed is complete, I'm going to show you spinach next. So this is our spinach bed, and you can see here that we ended up purchasing this metal crate to put over top to ensure that the birds were not going to eat this round of seedlings. So the spinach is in a couple different stages. You can see here that this spinach is just going to grow and grow, and I actually didn't thin these out. So I'm going to pick these as baby spinach, and you can continue to pick and eat these spinach leaves. Here's a good example of 2 spinach leaves side by side here, and they may compete for nutrients, so I am going to thin one out. There's 4 true leaves on both of them, so they are ready to be thinned. So let's take this one out, because I also have this one right here. So when you're thinning, make sure that you look to see what's on each side, and if this plant and this plant can grow really big, then you want to take anything in between out. Next up, I want to show you the chard and the beet bed. So the chard here is quite big, and I actually don't thin chard out until the leaves are about, I don't know, 5 or 6 inches off the ground. You'll see here that I'm going to actually pull this whole plant out. I'm going to eat this plant. And now it's going to allow these two chard to grow as big as they should grow. You'll see behind me here that this chard plant is quite large. So you can eat chard when it's baby leaves. It tastes so good in salads. And then as you keep harvesting, take out the plants and have about 12 inches or 6 inches apart so that you can have the chard grow really big. So let's do a close-up here. You can see these plants are very close together. So I'm going to start harvesting these leaves as baby leaves for salads, pasta sauces, lasagnas, and then I'm going to allow a few plants to grow about a foot tall, just like these ones right here behind them. Here's another example of some of the birds getting the seedlings in the middle here. This is why I like to overseed, to make sure you don't have these large gaps. But you can see here, these are actually beets now. Beets leaves are so good to eat, and they're perfect when they're baby, just like this. So I have not thinned the beets yet. I'm going to pick off some of the baby leaves, and then I'm going to thin these plants a little bit more to make sure that the beet bulbs can grow. If you're wondering why you should thin your beet seedlings so far apart, here's a really good example of how big the beets get. Now, this beet is almost ready to be picked. This beet here is a monster underneath there. So you do want to make sure that they have enough room to grow, and the beet leaves can also be eaten as well when they are really tall. You'll see here's some new carrots. So they are a little bit close together. You really want to make sure that you thin your carrots properly so they will actually grow, or else this is one vegetable that will just die if they don't have enough space. So I am going to make sure that there are a good 2 fingers in between each carrot so that they will grow. Now, I also eat the tops of carrots and I use them in pestos. So let's do a close-up. You can see here that these are all way too close together. So again, I'm going to pick this one out, and I'm going to leave these two to grow. These carrots have grown for the past 2 months now. You can see here that this was the gap that I thinned them, and they probably needed a little bit more space. So what I do when I harvest is I actually pull the middle ones out like this. We'll eat this one, and then I'll let these two stay in the ground, and they might even grow a little bit more. So you can see here that we harvest in gaps. You can see what the benefit is of thinning carrots so well, because now you are going to get some huge carrots because they've had room to grow. So we only had a few carrot tops here, so I'll probably add them in a pesto, or I'll just eat them in a salad or a wrap. Let me show you what we do with our radish tops. So I bring the radish seedlings inside, I wash them, and then I lay them out on a towel, and I dry them and eat them like microgreens, or I add them to a pesto. I've loved showing you how we thin our radishes, our chard, our carrots, our beets, and how we eat it. I hope you don't throw anything away, as it doesn't have to be wasteful. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel and like this video. Until next time.